let's talk about 3 reasons why you're struggling to find peace. The first reason is because you're trying to find it. So when we think about peace, peace is a state of homeostasis and equilibrium inside of our bodies. And so when we go out and look for it, look for things that give us peace, look for spaces that feel like peace, we're actually trying to navigate the world seeking something. That's not the way peace works. So peace is an allowance because when you come into this world, you're at a state of peace. You're a baby, nothing has been conditioned into you. There aren't things that you're believing or receiving because of the level of ignorance is bliss that exists there. And so you're just at a state of peace. You cry when you're hungry, you cry when your diaper is soiled. Those external factors have affected you, but your inner being is at peace, which is why it's so easy to get a baby back to peace during those times. You fix the thing that is disrupting the way that they're feeling, and they're back at peace. What happens when we are adults or growing into our adult phases of life is that we've allowed things to get downloaded into us. So we've been at this state of peace. We're walking through life. Someone says something, they should on us. So they say what we should be doing or we should be thinking or what we should be feeling, and we internalize that. So we put that into the depths of our spirit. And we continue to do that as we're walking along the journey of life. And what happens is you meet conflicting people with conflicting opinions, with conflicting shoulds, but you're still downloading that thing because it's what you do. You gather things and you carry them with you along the process. When your discernment is off, then you just download everything. And that's what happens when we're going through childhood because we don't really quite have discernment yet. We're just believing what we're receiving because of the people around us. When we start to get into those teenage years, that's when we start to develop that real sense of self. And it's almost to a heightened state, right? So we're like so aware of self that we're not believing what anybody has to say. Although that conditioning is still down in us, we've gone to the polar opposite end and we're believing and receiving everything that we think. What happens when we get into adulthood is we have those things that have been downloaded. We have those things that we have processed and considered and received that are all the way on the polar opposite end. And we lose that state of equilibrium because we've allowed so many things to be downloaded into us. And that conditioning isn't always bad, right? So you're conditioned to understand how to have proper hygiene. You're conditioned to understand what's right and wrong. The problem comes in when the conditioning is coming from all different areas and is based on people's opinions, and you've downloaded so many sets of those that you don't really understand where your equilibrium is. So when we talk about finding peace, we say it in a sense of it being something that we're looking for, when in reality, it's uncovering what it actually is inside of your being. So if I have been told that I should do these things to be a good mom, I need to take that download and get rid of it before I can actually understand what feels like peace to me in the form of mothering. If I've been told that I should react, respond, and be a certain way, good girl syndrome, right? If I've been told that, then in order to be assertive and stand up for myself, which feels like peace, which feels like doing the right thing, I'm going to need to uncover and take away that conditioning that says in order to be who I should be, that I need to do these things. So it really is about understanding that you can go scour the world and look for things that look like peace. But in the same way that somebody can pick up all of their belongings and move across the country and still find themselves in the same spaces with the same people with different masks, in the same feelings, in the same conditions and circumstances, that's exactly what happens when you put yourself into a place that you feel should be peaceful, because you're taking everything that's inside of you that has been downloaded in you with you. So if you don't change, then nothing changes. And if you're looking for peace, then that leads us to the second reason why you're not finding it. And that's because peace is not an external source. So it's kind of like we see peace as like the fountain of youth, right? So we feel like if we could get to that place, and if we could get to that fountain, and if we could just get a drink or a touch or a something of whatever peace looks like, then we'll actually find it. That's not really how it works though, because I can tell you that in my most chaotic phases of life, I would go outside into nature because that felt peaceful to me. And the external was so peaceful. The water's running, I can hear the water, all of that feels good, right? The birds are chirping, they sound like they're having a good time. And then there's me. There's storms and chaos and thunder and lightning going on in my brain. And why is that happening? Because I can take myself out of my space and put myself into a new space. But if I'm taking all of the chaos and inability to feel balance and equilibrium and homeostasis, if I'm taking all of that with me, it doesn't matter where I am, I'm not going to be able to experience peace. So we do this thing where we look for external things to happen in order for us to feel it. So if my kids would just listen, then I would be at peace. If my significant other would just learn how to communicate, then I would be at peace. If I could just get X, Y, and Z to happen, then I would be at peace. And what happens when we do that? We learn that we never actually find peace. And why? Because we're looking for it from a source that it never existed in. I said in the first place, we come into this world with our own peace. Now, external factors may affect us, but they don't have to upset our peace. We've been conditioned and downloaded for our internal to no longer have peace. So now we're in this place where the peace has been disrupted internally from what we allowed external factors to download into us. But we're looking for external factors to pull it back out of us, and that's not how it works. One, because the external people have benefited from the things that they've told us we should be doing. So they're not taking that away. And two, because if it's happening in us, then nothing outside of us is going to fix it. We have to go inward and really take a true inventory of, well, this doesn't feel in alignment with what peace is inside of me. So I need to either get rid of it, alter it, so abandon it, alter it, or adapt it somehow, right? I can't just continue to let that thing fester inside of me and then expect that I'm ever going to feel at peace, because you won't. You're going to walk around with that thing until you actually deal with that thing, because it is inside of you. And if you've ever seen this in real life, it's so interesting. And I'll share with you mine, because this is something that, I've taken with me everywhere. Like the defensiveness that I felt in relationships and with people in general, if they came to me with a criticism or critique, came from a feeling that I developed as a child that I wasn't important enough, I wasn't good enough, I was never going to amount to what I thought would be the pinnacle of existence so that other people would approve of me and love me. And so as an adult, because that's a story that I told myself, that's something that was downloaded inside of me, I continue to feel like I had to defend myself because I knew the amount of effort and the greatness of my intention, and I wanted other people to know that too. And so I would defend what I was doing. So that defensiveness isn't going to just go away because now I'm an adult. So I had to dig deep and say, okay, what's the core belief that exists here that makes you feel like you have to defend yourself? Once I dug in and found that, I was able to take that should, so you take those conditionings and throw it out, right? It no longer exists inside of me anymore, because It was no longer something that I believed. I didn't have to do this thing to be enough. I didn't have to believe this thing to be important, right? I just was good enough for the spaces that I was supposed to be in. And I was important enough to be able to do the things that I was involving myself in. And so that's a small example, but you'll notice that those things follow you until you fix them. They follow you until you actually get down to the root of the wound and realize that the things that are oozing out are a result of you not actually getting to the source of the wound. And the last thing is, sometimes we can't feel peace because we are accustomed to chaos. So it's almost like you want to get back to home. Like people say that this feels like home, but what if home was chaos? What if what you feel might be peace is just what you've always existed in and it's familiar but not peaceful? If you're accustomed to, and I would argue addicted to, chaos, if your body is used to performing in spaces where there's chaos, you won't be able to feel at peace because it will feel wrong. It will feel foreign to your system, to your mind, to your body. Peace won't feel good because you're so accustomed to operating in chaos. It's the same reason why, and no shot to those people who watch true crime documentaries and series and listen to those podcasts. But I looked up research on this and because I wanted to know, how in the world do people fall asleep listening to how people died and were murdered and all of these horrible things? Because my anxiety, the way my anxiety is built, that is not happening for me. That's keeping me up all night because now I know all these other things that I have to be worried about. But when I looked it up, it said that the majority of people who tend to navigate to those types of true crime, unsolved mysteries, whatever they are people who operate more familiarly in chaos. They actually like to problem solve, to figure things out, to get their emotions in a state of adrenal fatigue. Like that's something that feels like home to them. And I'm not saying that's good, bad, or indifferent, but that's not peace. If you're wanting to experience peace, then you have to understand that your home base might need to be readjusted. So just because it feels familiar, just because it feels like something that you're used to, doesn't mean that it's not full of chaos. So if you truly want peace, you have to assess what home feels like. It's kind of like when you get in those relationships, oh, we have chemistry. No, you have a soul tie because you feel chemistry to people who are harming you in the same ways. You feel chemistry to people who are harming you the same way that you were treated and harmed as a child. So when you're thinking about peace, just remember, you are not looking for it. You're uncovering it. You're getting yourself back to your home state of being that you existed in when you entered this world. It's not something that you will find externally. It is all internal work so that you can feel your body at peace no matter what's going on around you in the world. And lastly, you will not understand peace. You will not be able to get yourself to a state of peace if your home base and your addiction is to chaos. Thanks for tuning in. If you would like to read more, go to carrienicole.com or on all social media sites at Carrie Nicole.